Tennessee This Week from WATE's 6 on Your Side starts now.
Hello and welcome to Tennessee This Week. It's good to be with you. I'm Don Hudson. It's difficult to ignore the growing political polarization in the United States. I mean, polls tell us the country's basically divided, almost 50-50. The language that some hosts on television shows and podcasts, radio shows, as well as social media commentators can be demeaning. It can be mocking. Sometimes they use derogatory terms to describe candidates and to describe their supporters, as we've heard here recently. Plus, the politicians themselves call fellow candidates things like fascists and dictators and vermin and crooked and sleepy and unhinged and deplorable and garbage and even Hitler. This is vicious verbiage for sure, and something that we are going to get into today. And we're going to start with Dr. William R. Nugent. He is professor of the College of Social Work at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, conducting research, and correct me if I'm wrong, on measurement issues and the measurement of multiple scientific studies, including, which is what we want to get into, a recent study on violent political rhetoric and suicide. You've also done one on violent political rhetoric and mass shootings. So first off, thank you for joining us. I want to get from you how you're defining, because some people might say, well, what's violent political rhetoric? How do you define that?
So in the research I've done, I fall back on the definition that Thomas Zaitzoff, a researcher at American University in Washington, does. He defines violent political rhetoric as any language that defames, dehumanizes, is derogatory, or threatens.
And we've can cite, as I just did, plenty of examples in the last 10 years, can't we?
Yeah. He also breaks it down into name calling and threats.
Right.
So name calling would be like he's calling somebody a jerk or something even worse. Yeah. And then you also have threats, either direct threats. For example, we're going to kill all these people, or implicit threats. For example, implicit threat would be saying something like, well, so-and-so better be careful and watch their back. Or something like, this person or this group of people is a cancer. So those kinds of dehumanizing labels.
And I guess if we step out and not use the word political, many people that we associate with, maybe even ourselves, we've used quote-unquote violent, rhetoric toward maybe someone in our family or friends or coworkers or two people driving down the road. I mean, another way of describing road rage in some ways.
Road rage, exactly.
Yeah, and then they have whatever that reaction to. Obviously, not everyone is going to react the same. When you do these studies, it's more of a small group that reacts that way, generally compared to the mass public.
Well, I don't know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
So when I did this particular study, the one on suicide risk or suicide numbers, so what we did is we went and looked, first of all, at Zaitzoff's measurement of violent political rhetoric here in the United States across time. Basically what he did is he went into 9 national newspapers from Civil War times up to September of 2019, and he looked for newspaper articles that reported violent political rhetoric. And so then he had a count of those. So what we did is we took a figure of his, extracted those numbers from that figure, and then for this particular study, we used CDC data on rates of suicide in the 4 census regions in the United States. And then controlling for things like temperature. Temperature's been found to be related to suicide.
And what do you mean by that? You mean like the region you might live, the temperature, or the temperature of the rhetoric?
No, the temperature, actual physical temperature.
Okay.
There's research that shows that as temperature goes up, suicides tend to go up.
Okay.
And violence in general tends to go up as temperature goes up. So we controlled for that. We controlled for the numbers of people who lived in those census regions. There's periodicity in suicide. It's got some interesting correlates itself.
Right.
So we controlled for all those, and then we looked at the relationship after controlling for those, at the relationship between what the rate of violent political rhetoric was as reported by Zaitzoff and the numbers of suicides in that particular census region for a particular month. And we found that there was a positive relationship. As that violent political rhetoric increased, the suicide rates increased.
I want to get into that Civil War, the Civil War issue, but before that, are you, as you looked at this and you studied the data, and I know you're crunching numbers and you're coming up with, that type of thing, surprised at the power? Are you surprised at the power of that rhetoric has?
Well, honestly, I was surprised to have this particular finding. Actually, I've been surprised at all the ones that we found. We've got a new study we're starting to work on. It seems to me that if this is affecting people enough that they're committing suicide.
Right.
That it might be affecting people in general. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is the relationship between violent political rhetoric and just deaths in general.
Right.
Deaths from cancer and stroke, and because stress seems to be associated with it. So if we think about how this could happen, so first of all, let's think of violent political rhetoric. It's not a single person saying something.
Right.
What could be? It could be a person who's very well known, you know, a political figure.
Is it mostly that type of person, kind of an authority or political person versus your friend, or does it matter?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be people who are more, some people now are called influencers because they have a lot of followers. Right. But a political figure, a person, for example, who's on a show and uses this kind of language similar to what a politician might use. So people who are hearing that, particularly people who are the targets of that kind of rhetoric, will start feeling stress about it. And stress has been shown to increase inflammation in the body. And inflammation has actually been shown to cause depression. If you're depressed to begin with, it can influence and make it stronger. It can also instigate anxiety. And then as that happens, that increases more stress. So you start getting sort of like a ball rolling downhill, if you will, right, which can lead to then people starting to feel hopeless. They feel trapped. They're hypervigilant. They're paying really close attention to how bad is this getting, right, which can then lead to suicide.
I guess if you don't really care about politics, you can avoid that. But if you care about politics at all, how can you avoid the stress? I mean, with all the messaging that goes out there, like you just said, I mean, that's a tough thing.
Well, that's an interesting question, because I would assume now as people are paying more and more attention to an election coming, that it could even have a greater effect.
Right, because I mean, I think every one of us would say it's a little stressful if you're into the political arena, if this is important to you.
Or if you're paying attention to it,
and if you're paying attention, because every day there's something new. I want to back up to the Civil War, because when I read these studies and the articles about them, I just thinking, wait, the Civil War, you know, we think this is, you know, it's always us, right? Like Billy Joel's song, you know, we didn't start the fire, but we think, oh, this is just our new thing that we're so, the political rhetoric. But you're saying even back in the Civil War this was going on, right? The type of comments that got people going.
Well, if you look at Zaitsev numbers, yes. I mean, I haven't gone back and read newspaper articles to get an idea of what kind of language was being used. But he certainly follows this definition when he counted those numbers of articles. And so it was, what amazed me when I first saw that graph that showed those rates across time, it was extremely high, as you would have expected during the Civil War time. Then it died down to almost nothing. And then right around the start of the 2016 presidential election, it shoots right back up again to not quite Civil War levels, but close to it.
Wow, so it was worse. It was actually could have been worse back then, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, and I guess people might say, look at the correlation. Someone tried to, you know, someone did assassinate President Lincoln, and someone did try to assassinate former President Trump. I read one of your studies, and I read, it said for every 15 articles reporting VPR per 100,000 articles, there was an expected increase of 1 mass shooting per year, jumping off the suicide thing, also impacting shootings.
Potentially, yes. I mean, all these are what are called correlational studies. They can identify whether two things are related or not. And when we put control variables in there, that rules out the possibility that we're just making a mistake. In our language, we would call that a spurious correlation. It's not really there, but if you control for these, you can help rule that out. So that shows that there is that kind of relationship, but we can't say it causes it. So I always caution the readers in my manuscripts and my papers, be careful you don't interpret this to say this is causing it, because we don't really have that level of evidence. But there certainly is a relationship, and one of the first things you have to be able to show before you can make a claim that something causes something else is that they're related. So they're clearly related here.
And they were right, I discussed this with you so people know before we started talking here on air, but that someone wrote an article about it. They were impressed with your article, but it says that a lot of times we examine the shooter's background, the shooter's upbringing, and we don't look at maybe what were the trigger words possibly, and maybe what was said that might justify in the mind of a shooter to do what they're doing.
Yeah, well, that's certainly a possibility. One of the things we didn't take into account in this type of research is those more individual person type of characteristics.
Right.
So, and that's a very good comment. It's a very interesting comment about what's being said and how they're interpreting it. And one of the reasons I say that is Zaitsev points out in his work that one of the things that will happen is that a person who's a follower, for example, of a particular figure who hears that kind of language can hear that language and in their mind then justify violence because now it's been approved, or at least in their mind it's been approved by this figure that they admire or that they follow.
Right. Now, the correlation, I know you studied like correlation maybe a little mass suicide, mass shootings and suicide. Clearly people are not going from just point A to, the Z. There's a lot going, there must be a lot of things, like you said, stress and the impact and how this is churning through their mind and their mental health to get to those points.
That's true, yeah. That's my speculation.
Right.
Yeah, my speculation, for example, if I were to lay out a sort of a chain of events, somebody hears that rhetoric, they feel targeted by it, that increases their stress. As that stress increases, they become hypervigilant, so they start looking more and more for things that are threatening. That increases stress, which increases inflammation in the body. Inflammation in the body is associated with anxiety and depression, and that kind of thing can just start snowballing to the point where eventually somebody
real quickly, I know it's not part of your study and it's really not your expertise, but what could maybe people do to prevent or to help someone not go these routes? What could we do?
So in our paper, one of the things we suggested is that, for example, I'm a social worker. I'm in the College of Social Work at the University of Tennessee. Been a professor there for 33 years now. So I believe that social workers and other professionals like psychiatrists, psychologists, can be on the lookout in periods of time where there's high stress levels associated with violent political rhetoric. And their clients that they're working with, and they can begin to be more vigilant about identifying indicators of possible suicidal thinking. And that would give them the opportunity to intervene in that.
Well, I'll tell you, just wrapping it up, someone wrote in one of their articles about you and about your studies saying that you and your colleagues' work is remarkable, stands virtually alone in assessing a link between violent political rhetoric and mass shootings in the U.S. So clearly people are taking note of what you've done. We want to thank you for coming by. We want to thank you for sharing your insights. We're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we'll have our panel of pundits. They'll weigh in on some of the things the professor had to say, plus we'll talk about some of the races. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. A moment ago, we heard in depth about polarizing political rhetoric and election-related stress. Now we're going to bring in our panel of pundits to discuss some of the takeaways from that. And join us today, as always, our pundits, Courtney Piper, Craig Griffith, Michael Covington. Thank you all for coming in. Can I ask a question about voting first? Are you doing it Election Day, or did you already get it out of the way?
Already voted.
Early voting. First Saturday of early voting.
There you go. All right. Look at their fine examples for everyone.
And I stood in a long line.
If you haven't voted, though, make sure you vote on early.
Right. Now you are going to go on Election Day, unless you have the ballot at home. And if you do, you better mail it. By the time this is on the air, it better have already been done. Right. Professor Nugent had some very interesting things to say. I'm just curious, when his conversation about stress related to look at violent political rhetoric tied into suicide and tied into mass shooting. I'm curious your take on that. And Craig, I'll start here.
Well, I think all the other studies that I've seen about stress and anxiety on this election corroborate what the professor says, that there's an extremely high level of anxiety about this. And, and I, to a degree, it's the political candidates' fault because they're all making this out as the greatest election of all time.
Right.
The future of the country depends on this. All the language that we've heard from both sides on that issue, and it makes people nervous. So, I mean, I think it stands to reason that there would be some of that. And in the marginalized communities that are suffering mental health issues already, how it could take a toll. So I think his findings are very interesting, and politicians should take them to heart, that, what you say can have an impact.
You think something like this type of study, and I know it's a study from a UT professor, and it needs to probably get built on. Would they ever take it to heart? Do you think, Courtney? Do you think that we are now in this new political realm and this new way of delivering messages?
They should, because words have power. And unlike in the 90s, there are a lot faster outlets for marginalized populations to directly hear some of this venom that's coming out of our senators, congressmen, presidents, elected officials' mouths. And that has an effect on people. So I think that's why this is an important thing to study, because those communication pathways and access points have exploded tremendously since the 90s. So when folks say things, it's easier for other people to hear them and hear them repeatedly on repeat.
Do you think, Michael, that that's going to happen? Because obviously you can say something, I could say something to probably the three of you, and it'd be very little reaction. You'd just be like, oh, Don, whatever. But someone else might take that as a way. Do you think that that is going to change, or are we pretty much now on a certain set of train tracks when it comes to elections, Michael?
I think both Courtney and Craig are right on point that it needs to be addressed. But I think that what we're missing is that there was a time when we were more decent. We thought more of each other as people. So we wouldn't have said something as negative as we're hearing. I do remember in a city council, well, I didn't remember it, but I know historically there was a city council race in District 6, and it was the very first time that candidates had gone at each other really hard. And it was not well received in the community, and it was not done again. They both got the message. We will not tolerate this in our communities. As a citizenry, we have got to get to a point where we will no longer accept some of the negativity. I'm almost at a point where I'm ready to send some mail back to people and say, don't ever send me anything negative like this again, and if you do, I'll report you to the postmaster. I'm at that point where some of the stuff is just so negative that it just goes beyond the pale and needs to be stopped. And we as citizens need to find a way to push back on these people that, and Donald Trump's right there in the bunch, Kamala Harris, all of them have license to say things about the other side with no regard for who they are as people. So we need to do better about reining our politicians in and be serious about it.
Yeah, and as far as political ads go, I mean, and there's that opportunity to say something that may not be necessarily completely true. But we see it from every candidate that's, I don't know, I guess every.
But the half-truths are different from things that caused Pizzagate, for example, if you remember Pizzagate, where it was an armed gentleman walked into a pizza store because that's where he heard Hillary Clinton was operating a pedophile ring.
Yes, I do remember it, yes.
So these are not, we're not talking about extrapolating statistics and data to make a point. We are talking about real politically motivated violence or potential violence that is happening.
Right. And there's
specialists in negative advertising in the country.
Yes.
You know, and what they do is they try to look for that one little thing in someone's background character, you know, flaw, and try to exploit it as much as they can. So, you know, the negative advertising, which I'm not sure, you know, like it turns off people like Michael, and I think it turns everybody off. But it's as strong now as it's ever been.
Right.
So obviously there's a belief in the candidates that I need that negative opposition research so I can really go out and hammer this person in the mail and on TV. And until that stops working, you're going to continue to see it.
And I get back to that question, all those words that I went through in the first segment that we all know are being used. Do you think that obviously we would say we need to stop doing that. Will that ever stop? I mean.
Well, hatred and fear is a very strong political motivator. And we see the MAGA movement really tapping into hatred and fear big time. Big time.
So one side only?
When we're talking about political violence and those things that start precipitating violent situations, yeah. I mean, I think the MAGA movement is responsible for the bulk of that because we did not see things like this until the MAGA movement took hold.
Well, I disagree with that. Yeah. We had that same thing with the Tea Party, but
did we have Pizzagates with the Tea Party?
No, but
did we have a January 6th with the Tea Party?
Well, like I said, it's gone to an extreme. But Michelle Obama said, you know, when they go low, let's go high.
Right.
And that lasted about a nanosecond. Right. And there was this discussion after the attempted life on Donald Trump about how the campaign would change, and that lasted about 2 nanoseconds. So, you know, these patterns are just developed to where that's the way they think they're going to win.
Right, and since you bring that up, Michael, like you say that, Courtney, but then there are people who say, well, what about Antifa and other sides? Does one party own, Michael?
What are you talking about with Antifa?
No, I'm saying, does one party own the violence?
No party own. Explain to me what you mean when you say Antifa. Who is Antifa? Who is their leader?
The people, when we had a bunch of people that were dressing up and causing violence.
Who is Antifa's leader? Who is Antifa's leader? Nobody knows. Everybody throws out Antifa like, oh, but what about? But with the MAGA movement, we clearly know Donald Trump is at the head. He claims credit for it. He talks about it. There is branded merchandise that he sells. It's a very organized movement.
Okay. Well,
and there's only one party
that is electing people to office.
I have to say, Donald J. Trump is ideal for this type of dialogue because he seizes on it. You insult him, he takes an insult and turns it into a weapon, and he does everything he can with that weapon. It's a bad example. I think he's an excellent executive and a leader, but I think he's got to take a measure of responsibility for how this rhetoric is dialed back. Okay. And I think he can do that.
All right. On that note, still to come on Tennessee This Week, Knox County just saw a record high turnout for early voting. Our panel of pundits will weigh in on this and more when we come back. Welcome back to Tennessee This Week. Early voting is now in the books. And here in Knox County, we actually saw, or maybe we counted, a record early voting turnout. In fact, a little more than half of Knox County's 318,000 registered voters either voted early or voted by absentee ballot. And now that early voting is behind us, election officials looking ahead to Election Day on Tuesday. And as we already discussed at the beginning of, well, not the beginning of this, but a few minutes ago, the three of you are part of that number, that record. You know what? You should get some type of certificate that you were part of that record number.
You should make that for us.
We'll be looking for that next election night, Tuesday night.
So I have to think. Why do you think that was, Michael? Why do you think that this jumped ahead of other elections in the past?
This election is, I think people realize this election is for all the marbles. This is a very serious directional change for this country, and I think that people are aware of it. I think we're going to see on Election Day what people have learned about where this country needs to go from where we are right now.
Craig earlier had said that it maybe was not the end-all, the be-it-all as far as elections go. Is that just what people's perception is?
Well, it is till the next election. There's a couple of interesting things here. Knox County had a record number, but the state they voted early less than 2020. So there's something endemic here to Knox County that's not applying to the rest of the state. And I think there are a couple of races, the District 18 race, the Senate race with Senator Becky Massey that may be drawing outsized amount of early voting. But of course, I've always said early voting isn't new voters. Right. I always think early voting is these are the people that have voted on Election Day too. Right. But they just took advantage of the convenience of early voting to cast their vote. So it'd be interesting to see afterwards whether that's is indeed true or whether there were any new voters brought out this time in the Knox County races.
And clearly our population is growing. We are one of those places that people are moving, but I don't think it's those kind of numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like Craig said, we have a lot of things on the ballot. It's a consequential presidential race, also the United States Senate race. Right. We have a local celebrity that's on that ballot who's very popular in her district, Gloria Johnson, and she's on the ballot. In addition to the 18th district and the 18th state House district, there's also been a lot of money put into these amendments for City of Knoxville voters, both for and against. So I think you've got this combination of very interesting, exciting, and engaging races that are for Knox County residents, and that might be pushing our early voting numbers up while the rest of the state maybe not so much.
And Michael, your take on that more people got out there, because today was the first day, like where I go to work out, there's a voting place right next to it, and there's been a line at least 100 yards long every day, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, it's over.
In the city county building on yesterday, I don't know what it looked like. I mean, there were people everywhere, right up until the very end when they did the cutoff. So I think there's a tremendous amount of enthusiasm. I always like to look at the expressions on people's faces when they're in the back of the line. And there is a resoluteness about the expression on people in the back of the line when they're really serious. Right. I don't care how long it's going to take. I'm going to get this ballot cast today. And that is very encouraging, because if we get people that engaged in the electoral process, we're going to move the needle. We're going to get some things done, and we're going to get our politicians to listen to us in ways that they haven't listened before.
How much of that, and we only have a few seconds, do you think the presidential election is a big part of that? Yes or no?
Oh, yes.
In this case.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I only have to say it because we have 5 seconds left. Hey, we want to thank everyone for watching. We'll see you next week on Tennessee This Week.
The views of guests on Tennessee This Week are their own and do not represent the views of WATE 6 on your side or Next Star Broadcasting.